Today I'm going to talk about fake Disney pens. I'll go over what they are, where you will see them, and how to tell them apart from official pens. And then the fun part, we'll do a few side-by-side comparisons to see if you can figure out which pen is real and which pen is fake. So I got a lot to cover today, so let's get started. First, let's talk about what they are. Fake pens are lower quality reproductions of the official Disney pens. So the factories that make the fake pens, they copy the original pen design and they recreate it with lower quality materials. So you end up with a very inconsistent pen quality. So you'll have some pens that are thinner, the enamel will have all kinds of problems, and the colors could be very different from the original pen design. And another term I want to talk about is the word scrapper. So you'll probably heard people say, oh, those look like scrappers to me, or that one's a scrapper. Well, what they usually mean is that it's a fake. However, the technical definition of the term scrapper is that it's an official Disney pen. It just failed the quality control. So maybe they're making some pens and then there's a bunch of pens that just don't quite look right. So those get thrown out into the scrap pile, which is why they're called scrappers. And somehow those pens make their way out of the scrap pile and sold to the public. So that is the technical meaning of scrapper. But most people just use it to mean fake. And I get it because it's a lot more fun to say, oh, those look like scrappers instead of saying, oh, those look like fakes. So understandable. So where will you encounter fake pens? Well, the main place you're going to see fake pens are at the pen trading boards at the Disney parks. So unfortunately, most of the pens on those pen boards are fake. The other place you're going to see fake Disney pens are when you buy pens in bulk online at sites like eBay and Amazon. So if you go to one of those sites and you search for Disney pen lot, you're going to see tons of listings. They'll say things like, an assorted lot of 50 pens, or pick your size, 20 to 100 pens. These are all fake, 100% fake. They're not mixed in with some real ones. They are all fake. And one thing you can do with these listings is you can click into them and, like, let's say you see one that says 50 pen lot, it'll say sold over 20,000 times. So you can just do a little math there. And if they sold 50 pens 20,000 times, that means they sold 1 million pens? I don't think so. They're all fake. Now, of course, there are some exceptions. People could be selling their entire collection. Like, they'll take a collection and say, you know, I'm getting out of Disney pens. Here's my entire collection. So that does exist, but if you click on that seller, they're not going to say over 20,000 times. They're going to be selling, you know, some other pens and maybe other random household stuff along with their collection. So just make sure you really look into the seller before you buy pens in bulk online. How do you tell fake pens from the real ones? There's a lot of things to look at and we'll go over those now. Before even looking at a pen on a pen board though, the best thing you can do to avoid fakes is to have knowledge of the Disney pens and pen collections. Older pens, of course, are faked more than newer pens. So if you go to a pen trading board and you see a pen on there that you know was released recently, it's most likely a real pen. There is no set time limit before pens are faked, but I would say you're good for about a year after the official release, and maybe up to 2 years before fake pens of that series start to come in. So the more knowledge you have of pens in the collections, the easier it will be to avoid the fakes. Some of the best ways to spot a fake pen is to look at the back of the pen. But since you're most likely going to encounter fake pens on the pen trading boards at the parks, I'm going to start by looking at things from the front and then we'll work our way to the back. So the main thing you'll be able to see from the front of the pen are the imperfections in the enamel, which is the paint on the pen. So the enamel on an official Disney pen is flat and even and goes all the way to the edges, like in this Bambi pen. So it looks good from straight ahead, and then when we turn the pen to the light, you can see the rectangle light is reflecting off of the flat surface of the pen. So this one looks good because it's an official pen. On a lot of fake pens, the enamel has dips in it, and those dips show up when it reflects the light. So if you look at this Daisy Duck pen, we're looking straight at it and it looks okay. But when we turn the pen just a bit, you see that the enamel has a ton of dips in it. That same rectangle light that we saw in the Bambi pen, you can't even see it here because the dips in the enamel are reflecting the light all over the place. So this Daisy Duck pen is a fake. Now you can't just go up to a pen board and grab it and then move it around in the light. So you have to kind of go up and move yourself. So you get to look cool like this when you go to the pen boards. I call it the enamel dip dance. To see a real-world example of this, here is a pen trading board from Alani. Now this one has 2 Pinocchio hidden Mickey pens on there. There's one down at the bottom and there's one up at the top. Now if you look at the one down at the bottom, it looks flat. And if you look at the one up at the top, it obviously has dips in the enamel because it has some weird light reflections. Along with that one next to it with the orange guy raising his hands, you can see the reflections on that one too. So those 2 pens up there are definitely fakes. Now, the Pinocchio pen down at the bottom could still be a fake. It's just in this picture, you might not be getting the right angles. So if you were there in front of this board in person, what would you have to do? Well, you'd have to move yourself around. So you get that enamel dip dance again, and then you might pick up some reflections. But from this picture, which Pinocchio pen would I choose? I would definitely choose the bottom one because at least it looks flat with this light. The next thing to look at is the color of the pen. This goes a little bit with the pen knowledge part, but if you know what the color is supposed to be in the official pen, you'll be able to spot fakes that have slightly different colors. So if you know that this is what the Peter Pan Mickey icon pen looks like, and you walk up to a pen board and you see one that looks like this, then you know that one's probably a fake. However, official pens can have slightly different shades of colors too. So if you look at this example, these are 2 Queen of Hearts pens from the World of Evil Mystery Collection. These are both official Disney pens, and I unboxed them myself on this channel about a month ago. Now, if you look at them, the pink in the background is slightly different between the 2, and also the gold is different on the crown and in her dress. So official pens can have slightly different tints and colors too, so it's just something you need to look out for. So if you can get a little closer to the pen, you can start to look at the smaller details. So fake pens have a hard time with some fine details like the Mickey head on hidden Mickey pens. On the official hidden Mickey pens, the Mickey head looks really good. It looks like a hidden Mickey. But on fake pens, they struggle with this a little bit. Some look kind of blob-like, some the Mickey ears are, I don't know, almost touching. They just have a hard time recreating the Mickey head. And another detail that they often have a hard time creating are characters' eyes. On official pens, you usually see the white and the color of the eye. On fake pens, they struggle a bit with that. Aurora, are you okay? Is that an eye or an eye patch? I don't know. So, if you can get closer, look at the small details. So you have completed your pen trade, or maybe you're looking through the pens in your collection, and now you can look at the back. So the first thing you'll want to look at on the back of your pen is the Mickey waffle pattern. So what that is it's a repeated pattern of Mickey heads going all the way across the pen and off the edges. So you've probably heard people talk about that, saying, oh, the waffle pattern goes off the edges, or maybe, oh, that one has a border. So the way I like to look at it, and I don't think this is how pens are made, but it helps with the waffle pattern, is I look at it like how you would make cookies with cookie cutters. So let's say when you make pens, you're starting with a giant sheet of metal and it already has the waffle pattern on it. And then you're going to cut the pins out with like a cookie cutter. So no matter what shape the cutter is, it could be a Mickey head, it could be a dragon with a long tail, that Mickey waffle pattern is going to go across and off the edges of all the elements of the pen. Now, fake pens seem to have an issue with this. It almost seems like they stamped the pattern on. And if you can imagine, if you did that and you missed and got it a little off center, it would create a little border. So some fake pens have an edge or a border around the whole thing. Some are off center and you have a thick edge and no edge. And some, I don't even know what they're trying to do here. It looks like there's pieces of Mickey heads that they just decided to put on certain parts. So I'm not sure what's going on with that one. So 2 things to note about the Mickey waffle pattern is, number 1, they didn't put this on official pens until about, I think it was 2011, 2012, right around that time. So any pens that are older than that time don't have a waffle pattern on the back. And the second thing to note is that unfortunately there are a few official Disney pens that have a border on the waffle pattern. For example, this R2-D2 here is from the 2020 Hidden Disney pens, and if we turn that one around on the back, you can look at the edge, the border to the waffle pattern. No! I don't know why, just the droids in this series. I have the Pixar Hidden Disney pens from that series, and they look fine. I have a Marvel one, and it looks fine, but these Star Wars ones look like that on the back, and it makes it kind of hard because it almost looks like it's a fake pen. But most of the time, the waffle pattern is really good test for real versus fake. It's just sometimes, like this time, it didn't work out. So the next thing to look at are the nubs that are next to the main pen post. So on official pens, you'll have 2 kind of taller, neat nubs next to the pen post, and they'll match. They look like twins. On fake pens, sometimes they're like just these little bumps, and other times they're kind of these fat little blobs that they just don't really match. Sometimes they're close to the pen post, sometimes they're far away, and sometimes they're not there at all. Ghost nubs. So you want to make sure that the nubs look nice and neat. So next you can look at the lettering on the back of the pen. So official pens have very neat, clear, and easy to read lettering on the back of the pen. Fake pens have an issue with this. They have an issue with letter spacing and word spacing. So it could say Hidden Mickey pen, and the word hidden and Mickey will be touching, and then the word pen will be 5 spaces over. And if you look at this example here, it says Hidden Mickey pen, but the eyes aren't correct. I think they wanted to dot the eyes, but then it blurred in with the bottom of the eye, so it actually looks like an L. So it looks like it says HLDDEN, MLCKEY. So it's very similar to looking at the fine details on the front of the pen. You can also look at the fine details on the back of the pen. And if you see stuff like that where things don't look quite right, yeah, you might have a fake pen. You can also get into the weight and the thickness of the pen. Fake pens are made with a cheaper metal, and oftentimes they are a lot thinner. So if you did have a real and fake pen, you could weigh the 2, and the real one is going to be a little heavier than the fake. And when that happens, you can usually feel it when you just pick 2 of them up. You can feel that one of them seems kind of solid, and the other one feels like you can just kind of break it. So those are the main ways that I determine a real pen versus a fake pen. There are some other ways out there. I've heard people talk about the drop test, where you drop your pen onto a desk or a countertop and it'll sound different than a fake pen. But what's a real pen sound like? What's a fake pen sound like? Did you just dent your pen? There's a magnet test, but I can tell you with that, I use little tiny magnets to prop up my pen sometimes for pictures, and I've had the magnets stick to various parts of official pens and not stick to others. So I don't really feel like that's a guaranteed good test either. All right, you made it to the fun part. Or you just skipped ahead right to this part. That's fine too, skip the veggies, go right to dessert. So now I'm going to show you 2 pens side by side. One of them will be an official Disney pen, and the other one will be a fake pen of that same design. So we'll walk through all the things we just talked about and see when we can figure out which one is real and which one is fake. So let's go. So here are the Pluto mystery pens from the Mickey Icon collection from 2012. These ones have been faked quite a bit. So the first thing you'll notice here is there is quite a bit of a color difference. The one on the right has a kind of a darker yellow and green, and the dog bone tag here is a lighter, kind of a gold color. And the one on the left is a very vibrant yellow and green, and then a dark dog bone. So if you know what this is supposed to look like, you'll already know. If we move on to some details, there's really not much to look at here. I don't see any details that look different on one or the other beyond the color. So then we should move on to see if there are any dips in the enamel. So let's take a look at the one on the left. Shine it over to our rectangle light, and oh yeah, there are a lot of dips in the enamel there. The dog bone, the collar, and both Mickey ears. You can see it's just not a flat surface. Let's check the one on the right. There, you can see the rectangle light just goes right across the surface, so that is very flat. So that one is flat. The one on the left has a lot of dips in the enamel. So let's flip them to the back and see what else we can find. All right, so I've flipped them over and we can already see quite a bit of difference with these two pens. So the first thing we look at is the waffle pattern, and the one on the left, we see quite a good border down on the bottom and even around the top ears, where this one, the waffle pattern goes all the way off the sides. I can show you a little bit closer look at that. And you can also see with this one is those Mickey heads look like they're bumped up. It's supposed to be the other way, like this. The Mickey heads are actually the things that are bumped down, not up. So that definitely doesn't look right on the one on the left. And another thing you've noticed is the nubs next to the pin post. This one has 2 nubs. This one has none. So that doesn't look too good for that one on the left. So I think we probably have this one figured out. Do you know which one is real or fake? The fake one is the one on the left. The real one is on the right. The big clues here were the dips in the enamel, but if that wasn't enough, when we flipped them over, this was just a horrible looking waffle pattern. It had the Mickeys pushed up instead of pushed down. It was missing the nubs and it had a huge border. So that one had pretty much everything wrong with it as far as what we learned in this video. So that one's definitely the fake one. So here we have the Goofy Ice Cream Bar Mystery Pins from 2018. And the first thing you'll notice is the colors are just a little bit different. Over here on the right, the blue and the orange are a little bit brighter, but not too much. So next we'll look at the details. And there's not a lot of detail to look at here, but the popsicle stick does look different. So the one on the right has skinny lines and the one on the left has thick lines. So if we know what the official stick looks like, we'll know which one of these is real or fake. So the next thing we'll check is to see if there's any dips in the enamel. How flat is the surface of these pens? So we'll take a look at the one on the left, and that light is showing that that is a really flat surface on that pen. It's got a lot of scrapes and stuff. It's not in the greatest shape, but that is a flat surface. So now we'll look on the one on the right, and oh yeah, that's got a lot of dips. You can see right here the light goes onto the blue, a little bit on the black, doesn't even touch the next black yet. So there's a lot of dips. That is not a flat surface. So that is not looking good for that one on the right. So let's flip them over and see what other proof we can find. All right, I've flipped them over and now we'll take a look at the waffle pattern. So overall, the one on the left, you can see that it goes all the way across and the Mickey ears go all the way off the edges. So that one looks pretty good. The one on the right actually looks pretty good too, but I see a bit of a border right here, and you can kind of follow that up. This side has a little tiny bit of a border. And then if I get this a little bit closer, you can see that the one on the left is just a lot cleaner looking in the back. You can read the text a lot easier. And then this one is, I don't know, like a bit junky looking back here.
A lot of little spots, makes it hard to read. And then we can look at the nubs around the pin post. These ones are super even and neat. And then these ones are definitely smaller. They're still even, but they're smaller. So they don't look quite as good as the ones on the left. So I think we have enough evidence to determine which one is the fake pin. And the fake pin is the one on the right. That is the fake pin. The one on the left is the real one. The big things here are the dips in the enamel on this one, and that is not what the official popsicle stick looks like. These skinny lines are actually the lines that the pin's kind of made of, where the official one has thicker lines. That's why those are thicker. And then the back of this one, the waffle pattern, didn't look as good, had a little border, and then the nubs weren't as nice as the left one. So we figured this one out. On to the next. So now we have the 2014 Hidden Mickey series, which was Mater's Junkyard Jamboree Signs. And this one is the Rescue Squad Mater. And as you can see, the first thing you notice is that these are very different colors. We've got a yellow pin on the left and more of a cream colored pin on the right. So if you know what color this is supposed to be, you already know which one is fake and which one is real. But if you don't know what color it is, we can move on to the details. So looking at the details of these, with Hidden Mickey pins, the first thing I usually look at is the Hidden Mickey symbol. And it looks pretty good on both of these. The other little drawings around here look pretty good. This one here looks a little different. On the right, it's a bigger star. On the left, it's a smaller star. And I do notice that Mater's eyes are filled in over here and they're circles over here. So there is another fun, interesting detail here that I'm not going to point it out until later, so you can see if you see it or not. And the other detail I do see is these pins have cuts in them. And this cut here is not done very well. It's like it wasn't cut all the way through. So let's move on to see if there's any dips in the enamel. So we'll turn this to the light. And the one on the left, that looks pretty flat. I don't really see any enamel dips there. And the one on the right, looks the same, looks very flat. So both of these pins look really flat. So no enamel dips that I can see on these. So let's flip them over and take a look at the back. So looking at the back of these pins, the waffle pattern looks pretty good on both of them. We could take a closer look here. So the one on the left, the waffle pattern does go all the way off the edge. The one on the right is a lot shinier, and it has a good looking Mickey waffle pattern too. So the writing looks better on the one on the right. So you can clearly see the whole Hidden Mickey pin. You can read it here on the left too. It's just a little bit less clear. And then the biggest difference are those nubs. So the one on the right has two tall, even nubs, and the one on the left has two little tiny dots, and they're way too far apart. So that doesn't look good at all for the one on the left, and you can see here the cuts that I was talking about. You can see that that cut didn't get fully made. So that one just looks like a much lower quality pen. So I think we have enough information to determine which one is the fake pen. But before I tell you which one, did you see that detail that I was talking about earlier? It is this little headlight. See how that one's not filled in? This headlight's white and this one's just the background color. Over here, they're both filled in. Well, Mater has that headlight out. That headlight's broken. So that's a fun little detail, very accurate. So yes, this one on the left is fake. The one on the right is the real pen. That's the color of the real pen. It's this cream color, it's not a yellow. And then along with this cut not being super good, and then on the back, the nubs being really weird on the one on the left and just not being able to read the lettering as well as the one on the right. So the one on the left is the fake pen.
So how did you do in those comparisons? I know sometimes you get to that first step and you can already tell which one's real or fake, but it is a lot harder to tell the difference if you don't have a known official pen right next to it to compare it to. One thing I do want to say, it's very important about fake pens, is if you just went through your pen collection and you found out that a lot of your pens are fakes, it's up to you on how you want to react to that. I mean, they are still pens and they do still look good on your pen board. For example, these 3 fake Little Mermaid pens, if I put them with a bunch of real Little Mermaid pens, they blend in well and you have a nice little pen collection. So some people don't mind having them mixed in with their real pens. Other people can't stand it and they'll take that fake pen down and throw it right in the trash. And other people get a little more creative, and what they do is they take the fake pens and they cut the pen post off the back, and then they glue a little magnet to the back, and then you have a cool little Disney pen refrigerator magnet. So I think that's a fun idea, and I might do that with some of my fake pens. So I hope you enjoyed learning about fake Disney pens. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.